Politicians are not above accountability, and today we are going to examine why the CCFR says Blanchette crossed the line. Following the horrific anti-Semitic terrorist attack at Bondi Beach in Australia on December 14, 2025, where 15 victims were killed at a Hanukkah celebration in an attack authorities described as anti-Semitic terrorism inspired by ISIS, Blanchette published a controversial message on X. Here is the publication that I translated from French. At the pace at which these events, acts, and expressions of hatred are occurring, once again with an extreme level of violence that we seem to believe we are somehow immune from here, I cannot understand why we continue to turn a blind eye to the gun lobby, which feeds on this hatred and the growing takeover of civil society by radicals who spread violence throughout the free world. Political hypocrisy to preserve a few votes at the expense of the founding values of our societies. Pathetic. In the absence of responsible action and responsible choices, let us at least spare a sincere thought for those who are afraid and who sooner or later are targeted by this violence. Those comments are now at the center of a serious dispute. In his response, Blanchette turned part of his attention towards the gun lobby, accusing it of feeding on hatred. That raises an obvious question. What exactly was he suggesting? Was Blanchette linking Canadian firearms organizations and the law-abiding gun owners they represent to the hatred behind an anti-Semitic terrorist attack? And does a statement like that cross the line from political rhetoric into defamation? The CCFR and their lawyer believe it does. To break down the controversy, the lawsuit, I'm joined by Tracy Wilson, Vice President of Public Relations for the Canadian Coalition for Firearm Rights.
But you'll remember back in December, there was a horrific tragedy in Australia on Bondi Beach where Jewish people had gathered together to celebrate Hanukkah. And unfortunately, there was a mass shooting there committed by two Islamic State terrorists, an anti-Semitic terrorist attack. 15 people were killed, including a child, and they opened fire on peaceful people just celebrating. And I think, Canadians and the whole world were watching in horror as this unfolded, in particular after the events of October 7th. This is just a tragedy that I think all people were horrified by. And while most of normal people would be thinking about the victims and their families and the horrific things that have been perpetrated against the Jewish community, Yves Blanchette took it upon himself to target the gun lobby in a tweet that he had tweeted on his now personal Twitter profile on X. Sorry, I still call it Twitter. And in this, he said, when are we going to stop listening to the gun lobby? And I could read the tweet to you, but it was horrific, at a time when people are trying to make sense of a situation. Somehow he's created a false connection between two Islamic State terrorists committing an anti-Semitic terror attack on a beach in Australia to the gun lobby. And so we're reasonable people. We thought, well, there's no way that he's drawing a parallel between these two groups of people, between licensed Canadian gun owners and their organizations and these horrific terrorists, right? So we had our legal team reach out to him, and he was legally and officially served with a document asking him to clarify, okay, if you weren't talking about the CCFR when you said the gun lobby, who were you talking about? He's a Canadian politician. We are Canada's gun lobby. So I thought, if he's not talking about us, who could he have possibly meant? And of course, he didn't answer any of this. And so our legal team had no other option but to view this as a direct attack on us. If anybody Googles Canadian gun lobby, we're the very first thing that shows up for obvious reasons. So Yeah, we're sick and tired of politicians using tragedies and social media and just a constant attack and saying the most horrific things about good people who've done nothing to deserve it. We're tired of it and we're not going to take it anymore. So we're suing him for defamation and he's going to answer for what he said.
The federal government is turning a blind eye not to the legal gun owners, but to the illegal guns who are being smuggled at the border. At Rebel News, we started a petition at handsofourguns.ca. We demand the government to stop punishing the people who comply to the law, who own guns legally, but to now crack down on crimes related to the illegal guns that are circulating in Canada. So what I understand is Bondi Beach terror attack happened in 2025. What took you so long to now deciding to file a lawsuit?
Well, first of all, it was very difficult to serve him. It took an incredibly long time because I don't know if he was being evasive or it's just difficult to get a hold of this guy, but it was hard work to find him and serve him. But I think we also wanted to take our time, make sure we weren't making a mistake or jumping to conclusions, being overly sensitive. We wanted to make sure and give Mr. Blanchette the opportunity to say, oh no, I was not talking about the CCFR or Canadian gun owners and their organizations. You've been mistaken. We wanted to give him plenty of opportunity to do that. And so we did. Aside from that, we're also incredibly busy. As you know, we've got the challenge before the Supreme Court, which of course takes an incredible amount of our energy and resources working on that. But I think in general, we just wanted to make sure we were doing the right thing. And we also had to consult with our board of directors, our membership. I mean, we don't make these decisions lightly. And this is a pretty serious action. So after consideration with the board of directors and our legal team, we've decided to go ahead with this. He has been served and he will have to defend the horrible things he said about people in a court of law.
I think he will have to travel as well.
Yes, that's right.
To Alberta.
The defamation case, it has been filed in Alberta, which is where the general counsel for the CCFR, Mike Loberg, where he operates his very successful law firm there. And so Mr. Blanchette will have to travel from the Belle Province out west to defend himself against these. So we look forward to litigating this. And I think this is just a start of holding politicians to account. We've got another defamation case underway now that's been going on nearly 5 years with a journalist. We're not going to talk about that yet because we're almost done that case. But we never set out to become an organization that was going to be suing people or take all this court action. But it seems that's really the only avenue open to people like us to be able to hold these people to account for the horrible things they say. And at the end of the day, all you have to do to avoid any of this is just tell the truth.
Your lawsuit, what is your demand?
I think there's a monetary demand, but of course that's more or less irrelevant to us. It's very difficult to prove losses, right? Because we would have to prove that what Mr. Blanchette said negatively impacted us. And to be perfectly honest, the CCFR is well supported and Canadians in general support us quite well. But I think we need a retraction and an apology. And then going forward, the whole point of this exercise is just to have politicians like Mr. Blanchette hold himself to account. Think about things before you put them out there. That tweet still sits out there now on his social media. I mean, we're all human. You say things in the heat of the moment, but we have to start holding our politicians to a higher account than what they've been. These are the leaders and the people that the community looks up to for leadership, and this is how they act. So, yeah, we've pretty much had enough of it.
Right now, Byrna is having their biggest sale ever with 25% off everything on the Byrna Canada site, but only from August 17th through August 24th. In Canada, firearms owners like me understand the importance of safe, effective self-defense options. That's why we're proud to have Byrna as a sponsor. Byrna's less lethal launchers are designed to help protect you and your family without taking a life. Berna offers peace of mind, accessibility, and a practical layer of personal security for Canadians who value safety. Learn more at berna.ca/rebel. That's BYRNA.ca/rebel.
In those kind of situations, when we see terror attack or we are seeing like crimes that is happening mainly in Canada or in those big cities, you will expect that they will probably target more the illegal guns that are being used to commit those crimes. How come it's always the legal owners of fire gun who are being targeted?
Well, because unfortunately, this has never been a conversation about public safety. It's a political conversation. And that's unfortunate because the cost of not doing the right thing, of not targeting illegal, illicit, smuggled guns and the criminals who use them, we see that, and it's displayed in the crimes that we're seeing across the country. There's a real human cost to it, and unfortunately, it's cost a lot of lives. But that's not sexy. Gun bans are sexy. They create political movement. They are for votes. There's no responsible, reasonable Canadian who would say that to themselves, the focus here should be on licensed legal gun owners and their legally acquired firearms, despite them doing nothing wrong for decades, if not generations, with these guns. So it is purely political. We're going to fight these people from every single angle. As long as Canadians continue to support us, we're going to continue to fight them. And I think Canada's always wanted to have that one big lobby group that was able to do some of these big things. And the good news is we are here.
But I'm not very surprised from Mr. Yves-François Blanchet on his X account. It seems like he doesn't like criticism. He literally blocked many Quebecers just because they decided to voice their critiques towards him. Do that surprise you, how he is handling everything and the fact that he posted this kind of rhetoric online?
Well, it does surprise me because I think, I'm not a young Canadian, I'm middle-aged. And for 54 years, I've believed that the people who lead our country, who's, walk the halls of power and wield great power with legislation and regulation, that these were the cream of the crop, the best people in the country, the smartest, the brightest. And that's just not the case, to conduct yourself like that in a public forum where people see it, they screenshot it. Just imagine the average Canadian who maybe looks up to Mr. Blanchet reading that tweet and what they now think of licensed gun owners and their organization. It's the discourse in this country has gone completely off the rails, and Mr. Blanchet has blocked me too. I've never interacted with him. I did quote tweet that awful tweet that he put out because I was in absolute disbelief. And he just, runs around throwing around these horrible words, saying awful things about people with absolutely no consideration. And when you incite this kind of hate, you have to wonder, what is the goal of that? What's he looking for? What does he want done to gun owners and their organization? Like, it's just not a good place to be. And they should be setting an example and behaving themselves and not acting like a bunch of trolls on social media.
And it's not minute. We talk about comparing to Islamic terrorism to a gun lobbying group.
Yeah, that's what I mean. When you people were very emotional when this tragedy happened, of course, right? I watched it in horror. And of course, in this day of iPhones, there's a video. And watching that video, I had my hand over my mouth in disbelief. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It's horrific. And then to turn over to Twitter and see the leader of the Bloc Quebecois say something like that. And I thought, how do I even walk the streets? Like, what does he want? What kind of reaction is he looking for from the public against people like myself or Mr. Giltaka, my partner here at work, or our members and volunteers? Like, what is the point of inciting that kind of hate? And for those reasons, we've decided to make an example out of this. And going forward, this is how it's going to be. MPs are protected by parliamentary privilege for things they say within the House of Commons, but what they say in media interviews and what they say, especially on social media, is fair game. And we're going to have our eyes wide open.